Ah, look who's become the conversation that happens before the conversation. Look who's turned into the warning label people pass around in whispers. Look who's made it so terrifying to be in the same room with you that they literally have to prep each other like they're entering a war zone. Don't say anything that'll set them off. Don't bring up that topic. Watch your tone. Choose your words carefully. Whatever you do, don't. Just don't. They're holding emergency meetings about you, briefing sessions, strategy calls, and the funniest part is, you didn't even do anything violent. You didn't threaten anyone. You didn't raise your voice. You just became someone who doesn't tolerate disrespect anymore, someone who doesn't smile through the pain anymore, someone who doesn't pretend anymore, and that terrifies them more than any threat ever could, because they've lost control of you. They used to be able to say anything, do anything, cross any line they wanted, and you'd just take it, you'd absorb it, you'd apologize for making them uncomfortable with your pain, but then something shifted, something in you snapped. Not into rage, not into violence, but into clarity. And now they can't read you anymore, they can't predict you, they can't manipulate you, and that's why, before they see you, they gather in corners, in group chats, in phone calls, whispering like scared children before facing the principal. Just be careful around them, they're different now. Something's changed, they're not the same person. I don't know what happened, but don't push them, don't test them, don't even look at them wrong, because I've seen what happens when someone crosses that line and it's not pretty. And the wildest part is, you're not even trying to be intimidating. You're just existing. You're just standing in your truth. You're just refusing to shrink yourself for their comfort anymore. And somehow that's the most dangerous thing you could have ever done. You know what's really happening here. They're not briefing each other because you're unstable. They're briefing each other because you're uncontrollable. Because you don't need them anymore. Because you don't chase their approval. Because you don't flinch when they try to guilt trip you. Because you don't scramble to explain yourself when they give you that look. That judgmental sideways glance that used to send you into a spiral of self-doubt. But now, when they do it, you just stare back. Unbothered, unmoved, unaffected, and that stare, that silence, that complete lack of reaction, it haunts them for days. They've realized that their usual tactics don't work on you anymore. Their passive aggression just slides off you like water off glass. Their subtle digs don't land. Their attempts to gaslight you into questioning your reality just bounce back and hit them in the face. And now they're scrambling. Now they're the ones feeling unstable. Now they're the ones who can't sleep at night, wondering what you're thinking, what you're planning, because you stopped giving them access to your mind. And that's the most powerful move you could have ever made. Let's talk about what happened when your name came up in that conversation. You weren't there, but you felt it. You know how energy works. You know when you're being discussed. And in that moment, when someone said your name, 3 people started sweating. Not metaphorically, literally. You could see their faces change, their body language shift, their voices drop to a whisper. Because your name isn't just a name anymore. It's a trigger. It's a reminder of the one person in their circle who stopped playing their games, who stopped accepting their version of reality, who stopped allowing them to rewrite history and gaslight everyone into believing their lies. Your name is the uncomfortable truth they can't escape, the mirror they don't want to look into, the evidence that their whole social hierarchy is built on manipulation and fear, and you walked away from it. You stepped out of their matrix, You refuse to participate in their performance, and now you're the one thing they can't control, can't predict, can't contain, and it's eating them alive. They're briefing each other because they know you see through them now. You see through the fake smiles, the performative kindness, the strategic friendships, the calculated conversations. You see the ugliness underneath the polish, the insecurity beneath the confidence, the desperation behind the success, and they know you see it. They can feel your eyes cutting through their masks like lasers, and it makes them so uncomfortable they can barely function in your presence. That's why they avoid you. That's why they change their routes when they see you coming. That's why they suddenly have somewhere else to be when you walk into a room. Not because you're mean, not because you're aggressive, but because you're aware. And awareness is the most threatening thing to people who survive on deception, who thrive in environments where everyone agrees to pretend, where everyone participates in the collective delusion. But you stopped pretending, and now you're the glitch in their system, the error message they can't debug, the virus they can't remove. Here's what they're really afraid of. They're afraid that if they say the wrong thing, if they slip up, if they show their true colors even for a second, you'll call it out, not loudly, not dramatically, just calmly, surgically. And when you do that, when you speak that uncomfortable truth out loud in that quiet, deadly tone, everything stops. Everyone freezes because they all know you're right. They all know what just happened. They all felt the mask slip, and now there's no going back. Now everyone in the room just witnessed the truth, and that's their worst nightmare. That's why they brief each other. That's why they warn each other. Don't give them ammunition. Don't give them a reason. Don't give them anything they can use against us later, because they know you remember everything. You catalog every lie, every contradiction, every moment of hypocrisy, not out of bitterness, not out of revenge, but just because you're awake now, you're paying attention now, and you don't unsee things once you've seen them. They're sweating because they remember who you used to be. They remember the version of you that absorbed their abuse with a smile, that took their criticism as constructive feedback, that believed their gaslighting, that blamed yourself for their bad behavior, that twisted yourself into knots trying to be what they wanted, trying to earn their approval, trying to fit into their impossible standards. And they got comfortable with that version of you. They got used to having someone they could dump on, someone they could blame, someone who would always take the hit, always be the scapegoat, always accept responsibility for their failures. But then you woke up. Then you evolved. Then you started seeing the patterns, connecting the dots, recognizing the manipulation, and the moment you did, the moment you stopped playing your role in their dysfunction, their whole system collapsed, and now they're scrambling to rebuild it without you. But here's the thing, they can't, because you were the foundation. You were the one holding it all together, absorbing all the toxicity so they could pretend to be healthy. And now that you're gone, now that you've removed yourself, the true nature is exposed, and they hate you for it. Listen closely, because this is the part they'll never admit. They don't actually think you're the problem. They know you're not. They know deep down that everything you called them out on was true. Every boundary you set was reasonable. Every time you refused to accept their disrespect was justified. But they can't admit that, because admitting that means admitting they were wrong, admitting they hurt you, admitting they took advantage of your kindness, admitting they mistook your patience for weakness, and their egos can't handle that. Their carefully constructed self-image can't survive that level of honesty, so instead they make you the villain. They brief each other on how difficult you've become, how sensitive you are, how you've changed, and yes, you have changed. You've changed from someone who accepted crumbs to someone who demands respect. You've changed from someone who stayed silent to someone who speaks truth. You've changed from someone who made excuses for them to someone who holds them accountable. And that change, that evolution, that transformation, it's the most terrifying thing they've ever witnessed, because it proves that people can wake up, people can break free, people can stop participating in toxic systems. And if you can do it, what's stopping others from doing the same? They're having these briefings, these strategy sessions, these let's all get on the same page before we deal with them conversations. And what they don't realize is that every time they do this, every time they gather to prepare themselves for your presence, they're admitting something massive. They're admitting that you have power. They're admitting that you affect them. They're admitting that you matter. They're admitting that you matter. They're admitting that you no longer someone they can dismiss, ignore, or control. And that admission, even though they'll never say it out loud, even though they'll never acknowledge it consciously, it's changing the entire dynamic, it's shifting the energy, it's rewriting the hierarchy. Because now, you're not the ones seeking their approval, they're the ones seeking your mercy. They're the ones hoping you won't expose them. They're the ones praying you'll stay quiet about what you know. They're the ones terrified of what you might say, what you might reveal, what truth you might drop that'll shatter their carefully maintained illusions. You want to know the most powerful position you can be in? It's not being loved by everyone. It's not being liked by everyone. It's not even being respected by everyone. It's being the person they have to prepare for. It's being the person they can't take lightly. It's being the person whose presence alone changes the atmosphere, whose silence speaks louder than words, whose absence is felt more than most people's presence. And that's where you are now. You didn't ask for this position. You didn't scheme for it. You didn't manipulate your way into it. You simply stopped accepting disrespect. You simply started valuing yourself. You simply began requiring others to meet you at your level instead of constantly lowering yourself to meet them at theirs. And that simple shift, that basic act of self-respect, it was so foreign to them, so unexpected, so completely outside their understanding of who you were supposed to be, that it registered as an attack, as aggression, as a threat, when really all you did was stop being a doormat. And now let's address the elephant in the room. The fact that when your name comes up, when someone mentions you, when you become the topic of conversation, there's always that pause, that moment of collective anxiety, that shift in energy where everyone gets a little tense, a little careful, a little guarded. That's always the challenge. And you might think that's a bad thing. You might think that means you're the problem. But let me reframe that for you. That tension isn't about you being negative. That tension is about them knowing they can't play their usual games. That tension is about them realizing they're in the presence of someone who won't participate in their delusions. That tension is about them feeling the weight of their own authenticity when confronted with your authenticity. This tension is about them feeling the weight of their own authenticity, because you're not performing anymore. You're not pretending anymore. You're not code switching to make them comfortable anymore. You're just being you, raw, real, unfiltered, unapologetic. And that realness, that authenticity, it's like sunlight to vampires. It's uncomfortable for people who've built their entire existence on fakery, on performance, on carefully curated images that don't match their reality. They're briefing each other on what not to say around you, what topics to avoid, what jokes not to make, what comments to keep to themselves. And while they frame this as walking on eggshells, what it really is, what they can't admit, is that they're finally being forced to think before they speak, They're finally being held to a standard of basic respect. They're finally facing consequences for their thoughtlessness, their cruelty disguised as humor, their passive aggression disguised as concern, their manipulation 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 disguised as concern, and they hate it. They hate having to be mindful. They hate having to consider how their words affect others. They hate having to treat you with the dignity they should have been offering all along, because it's easier to blame you for being too sensitive than to admit they were being insensitive. It's easier to paint you as the problem than to acknowledge their behavior was problematic. It's easier to brief each other on how to handle you than to just treat you like a human being deserving of respect. Here's the part that really gets them. You're not asking for special treatment. You're not demanding they worship you. You're not requiring them to agree with everything you say. You're simply refusing to accept disrespect. And somehow that basic boundary is too much for them. That reasonable expectation is seen as unreasonable. That simple requirement for human decency is treated like you're asking them to move mountains. And that tells you everything you need to know about them. That reveals exactly who they are. Because healthy people, emotionally mature people, people with genuine integrity, they don't need briefings on how to treat someone with respect. They just do it. Naturally, automatically, without thinking twice. But these people, they need strategy sessions. They need game plans. They need to coordinate their approach. And that coordination, that preparation, they need preparation. It's not about you being difficult. It's about them being incapable of authenticity, incapable of genuine respect, incapable of treating people well without ulterior motives or strategic calculations. Let's go deeper into what happens in those moments when your name triggers that response, when someone mentions you and suddenly the room gets heavy, when your presence becomes the thing they're all silently preparing for. There's a specific type of power in that, and it's not the power of intimidation, it's not the power of aggression. It's the power of truth. It's the power of boundaries. It's the power of refusing to participate in their collective dysfunction. And that power, it can't be taken from you. It can't be diminished by their gossip. It can't be destroyed by their attempts to paint you as the villain. Because you know who you are. You know your truth. You know that everything they're afraid of, everything they're briefing each other about, it's not your anger, it's not your violence, it's your clarity, your ability to see through them, your refusal to be gaslit, your commitment to reality over their preferred fantasy. And that commitment, that dedication to truth, it's unshakable, it's immovable, it's the foundation they can never crack. They're sweating because they know that in any room you're in any conversation you're part of, their usual tactics won't work. Their diversions won't land. Their attempts to change the subject will be noticed. Their efforts to gaslight will be called out, not necessarily out loud, not necessarily in front of everyone, but they'll see it in your eyes, in your silence, in your lack of reaction to their manipulation. And that knowing, that awareness, it's worse than any confrontation, it's worse than any argument, because it means you see them, truly see them. And they can't hide anymore, they can't pretend anymore, they can't perform their way out of it, because you're not buying the You stopped purchasing tickets to their circus months ago, years ago, and now you're just watching from the outside, observing, understanding, but no longer participating. And that non-participation, that withdrawal of your energy from their drama, it's devastating to them because they need participants, they need people to play the game, they need victims to gaslight, they need someone to blame, someone to scapegoat, someone to make responsible for their own failures. And you're not available for that role anymore. Here's what they'll never tell you. In those briefings, in those moments when they're warning each other about you, there's a tone, there's an undercurrent, and it's not just fear, it's not just anxiety, there's something else. Something they'd never admit. There's respect, there's admiration, there's a begrudging acknowledgement that you did something they could never do. You walked away, you set boundaries, you chose yourself, you refused to keep playing a game rigged against you, and part of them, the part they bury deep down, the part they'll never let surface, that part knows you're right, knows you're strong, knows you're everything they wish they had the courage to be. But instead of letting that admiration motivate them to grow, to change, to evolve, they let it curdle into resentment, into bitterness, into this toxic need to warn others about you, to paint you as the problem, to make you the villain. Because if you're the villain, then they're the victims. If you're the bad guy, then they're justified in their treatment of you. If you're the monster, then they don't have to look at themselves, don't have to acknowledge their role, don't have to take responsibility for how they contributed to the situation. Watch what happens next. Watch how they navigate spaces where you exist. Watch how they position themselves, how they manage conversations, how they try to control narratives, because every single move they make is calculated around you now, around your potential presence, around what you might hear, what you might see, what you might know. And that's the most powerful position to occupy, not because you're trying to intimidate them, not because you're seeking revenge, not because you want them to suffer, but simply because you exist in truth, you operate from authenticity, you refuse to participate in delusion. And that refusal, that commitment to reality, it forces everyone around you to either step up or step back, either match your energy or remove themselves, either be real or be gone. And most of these people who need briefings before seeing you, they can't match that energy. They can't operate at that level. They can't survive in an environment where truth is valued over comfort, where authenticity is required over performance, where people are held accountable for their actions rather than coddled in their dysfunction. They're briefing each other right now in this moment. Somewhere, someone is saying your name and someone else is tensing up, someone else is warning them. Be careful, watch what you say, don't push them, they're not the same anymore. And they're right, you're not the same. You're better, you're stronger, you're clearer, you're more aligned with your truth. Look who just shattered someone's entire reality with a single sentence. Hello, beautiful chaos agents. Hello, accidental truth tellers. Hello to everyone who dropped a joke so sharp, so precise, so uncomfortably accurate that the room went silent and suddenly nobody's laughing anymore. Welcome back, because something just happened, didn't it? You tossed out a comment, casual as breathing, wrapped it in a laugh, delivered it like a punchline, and then you watched their face change. You saw the smile freeze. You felt the energy shift from comedy club to crime scene, because what you said is a joke. What you threw out there like it was nothing just hit them like a freight train of truth they've been running from their entire lives. And now, they're spiraling. Now, they're quiet. Now they're refreshing your messages at 3 in the morning, trying to figure out if you actually know, if you can actually see, if you've been watching this whole time. Here's what they don't want to admit. That joke, it wasn't random. You didn't pull that observation out of thin air. Somewhere deep in your subconscious, in that part of your brain that reads energy like subtitles, you picked up on something real, something they've been hiding, something they thought was invisible, and you said it out loud. You said it with a grin. You said it like it was nothing. But it was everything. It was the one thing they pray nobody ever notices. The secret they've been guarding like a nuclear code. The truth they've spent years burying under fake confidence and carefully constructed personas. And you just casually excavated it in front of everyone, wrapped it in humor, and walked away like you didn't just detonate their entire self-image. Now they can't sleep. Now they're replaying that moment over and over, analyzing your tone, dissecting your words, trying to convince themselves you didn't mean it. But you did, and they know it. Let me paint you a picture. You're in a group setting. Maybe it's online, maybe it's in person. Doesn't matter. The conversation is flowing, everyone's comfortable, guards are down. Someone says something, anything, really. And your brain just makes a connection. It's instantaneous. It's effortless. You don't even think about it. You just open your mouth and out comes this perfectly crafted observation disguised as a joke. Maybe it's about their relationship. Maybe it's about their job. Maybe it's about how they present themselves versus who they actually are. You say it, everyone laughs, the moment passes, but then you notice it. That one person isn't laughing anymore. Their eyes went somewhere else. Their posture changed. They're smiling, but it's not reaching their face. They're nodding, but they're not present. Because in that single joke, that throwaway comment, you just named the thing they've been terrified someone would see. You just spoke their hidden truth out loud and called it comedy. What's even wilder is you didn't mean to do it. You weren't trying to expose anyone. You weren't on some revenge mission. You weren't even thinking that deep. It just came out because your mind saw a pattern, made a connection, and your mouth said it before your filter could catch it. That's the scariest part for them. It means you're not even trying. It means you're just naturally tuned to frequencies they thought were encrypted. It means you see things without effort that they work overtime to conceal. And if you can see that, if you can call out that specific thing with such casual precision, what else do you see? What else have you noticed? What else are you just choosing not to say? Now they're paranoid. Now they're watching you, watching them. Now every interaction with you feels like walking through a minefield because they never know when you're going to drop another truth bomb disguised as humor. They can't relax around you anymore. They can't perform their usual act because you've proven you can see through it. Here's what happened in their head the moment you said it. First came the shock, that immediate gut punch of recognition. Then came the denial, the desperate scramble to convince themselves you were just joking, just making random observations. Couldn't possibly know, but denial only lasts so long. Then came the paranoia, the obsessive mental replay, the forensic analysis of every word you said and how you said it. They're asking themselves questions they don't want answers to. How long have they known? Have they been watching me this whole time? Did someone tell them? Can they just sense it? Are they going to say more? Who else knows? And the worst question of all, the one that's keeping them awake at night staring at the ceiling, is this one. If they saw that, what else do they see that I don't even know I'm revealing? Because now you're not just a person to them anymore. You're a threat. You're a mirror. You're evidence that their carefully constructed facade has cracks they didn't know existed. Let me tell you what's really happening here. You've become dangerous without even trying. Not dangerous in a violent sense, dangerous in a truth sense. You're the person who can't be lied to. You're the one who picks up on micro expressions, tonal shifts, energy changes that other people completely miss. While everyone else is listening to words, you're reading the silence between them. While they're watching what people do, you're seeing what they're avoiding. While they're accepting surface explanations, you're detecting the contradictions underneath. This isn't something you learned. This isn't a skill you developed. This is just how your brain is wired. You process information on multiple levels simultaneously. You see patterns in chaos. You connect dots that aren't supposed to connect. And sometimes, just sometimes, that processing leaks out in the form of a joke that's way too accurate to be coincidence. They want to know how you do it. They want to know your secret. They're trying to figure out if you're psychic, if you're a manipulator, if you've been stalking their social media, if someone's been feeding you information, because the alternative, the truth they absolutely cannot accept, is that you just see them, really see them, not the performance, not the persona, not the carefully edited highlight reel. You see the person underneath, the one they're terrified of being, the one they've spent their entire life trying to escape. And you saw them so clearly that you could name their fear out loud and make it sound like a joke. That's the part that's breaking them. Not that you know, but that you know and you made it sound so casual, so effortless, so obvious that it makes them wonder if everyone else can see it too, and they're just too polite to say it. Now their whole reality is crumbling. If you can see through them that easily, can everyone? Has their entire life been a transparent act that only they believed in? Let's talk about the aftermath. After you dropped that joke, after the moment passed, after everyone moved on to the next topic, you probably forgot about it. It was just another comment in an endless stream of words, but not for them. For them, that moment became a bookmark, a timestamp, a before and after marker in their mental timeline. They're not moving on. They're stuck there, replaying it in slow motion, analyzing every microsecond of that interaction. They're remembering exactly where you were standing, what you were wearing, who was around, what led up to it. They've turned your joke into evidence. They've transformed your laughter into interrogation. They're treating your casual observation like it's a coded message that needs to be deciphered. And the more they think about it, the more real it becomes. What started as maybe they were just joking has evolved into they definitely know, they've probably always known, and they're just waiting to say more. Here's where it gets even more intense. They're going back through every interaction you've ever had, re-examining everything through this new lens. That time you smiled at them weird, you knew. That time you asked that specific question, you were testing them. That time you went quiet during that conversation, you were judging them. Every moment you've ever shared is now under investigation, because you've proven you're not just casually existing in their presence. You're observing. You're calculating. You're seeing layers they didn't know they were showing. And that realization is absolutely destroying their peace of mind. They thought they were safe. They thought their secrets were secure. They thought their performance was convincing. And then you, in one joke, one offhand comment, one casual observation, proved that none of it was working. You shattered their illusion without even knowing you were doing it. You weren't trying to hurt them. You were just being you. But your version of being you includes a level of perception that feels like mind reading to people who are used to hiding. Now let me tell you what they're not telling you. They're scared of you now, not in an obvious way. They're not going to admit it. They might even act friendlier, more interested, more engaged. But underneath that, there's a new current running. There's wariness. There's calculation. There's the constant awareness that you're not like the others. You're the one who sees, and people who see are dangerous to people who hide. They can't manipulate you with the usual tactics, because you've already demonstrated that you read between the lines. They can't perform for you, because you've already shown you can detect the performance. They can't lie to you because you've already proven you know the truth. So now they're stuck. They can't get close to you because you're too perceptive. But they can't get away from you because that would confirm their guilt, validate your observation, admit that you were right. So they're trapped in this weird middle space, trying to act normal while internally freaking out about what else you might casually reveal next time you decide to drop a joke. Here's the thing about people who hide. Their entire existence is built on the belief that if they just perform well enough, if they just maintain the facade consistently enough, if they just commit to the lie thoroughly enough, nobody will ever see the real them. They've structured their whole life around this performance. Their relationships, their career, their self-imposed everything depends on people buying the story they're selling. And then you come along, not even trying, not even meaning to, and with one joke you prove that the emperor has no clothes. You prove that their performance isn't as convincing as they thought. You prove that their secrets aren't as hidden as they hoped. You prove that someone can see through it all without even trying hard. And that's not just embarrassing for them, that's existentially threatening. Because if you can see it, maybe everyone can. Maybe they've been fooling nobody. Maybe their whole life has been a stage play that everyone's been too polite to walk out of. Your joke didn't just call out one thing, it questioned everything. Let me ask you something. Do you even remember what you said? Because I'm willing to bet it's already fuzzy for you. It was just another moment, another laugh, another day. But for them, it's crystal clear. They remember every word, every inflection, every facial expression you made. They've memorized it like scripture. They've analyzed it like evidence. They've dissected it like a forensics team. Because to them, your joke wasn't entertainment. It was revelation. It was exposure. It was the universe speaking through you to call them out on their nonsense. And now they're living in this weird reality where they know you know, but they can't acknowledge it without confirming it. So they're stuck pretending everything's normal while internally having a complete meltdown. They're smiling at you while mentally writing essays about what you might have meant. They're laughing with the group while secretly wondering if everyone's in on it, if everyone knows, if the whole world is just pretending not to notice their obvious truth. Here's what's really breaking them down. It's not just that you called them out. People get called out all the time. What's destroying them is the casualness of it. You didn't make it a big dramatic moment. You didn't stage an intervention. You didn't pull them aside for a serious conversation. You just tossed it out there like it was nothing. Like noticing their deepest fear or biggest secret was as simple as commenting on the weather. That's what's so devastating. Because it means to you, their biggest source of shame is barely worth noting. It means their carefully guarded secret is so obvious to you that it's joke material. It means they've been putting all this energy into hiding something that you spotted immediately and found amusing. The gap between how serious it is to them and how casual it was for you is the thing that's causing the breakdown. They're realizing they've been working so hard to hide something that's apparently just sitting there in plain sight for anyone with eyes to see. Now we enter the phase where they start changing their behavior around you. Watch for it. They'll either go one of two directions. First option is they'll try to get closer to you, befriend you harder, make themselves indispensable, keep you close so they can monitor what you know and control the narrative. They'll start asking you questions, fishing for information, trying to figure out your sources, seeing if they can manipulate you into revealing how much you actually see. They'll perform loyalty, offer secrets, create false intimacy, anything to get inside your head and understand your perspective. Because if they can understand how you see them, maybe they can adjust their performance accordingly. Maybe they can patch the holes you spotted. Maybe they can convince you that your joke was wrong, that you were seeing things that weren't there, that you were just being funny and accidentally stumbled near something that isn't actually real. That's option one, the aggressive befriending strategy, the infiltration approach. Option two is they'll pull back. They'll create distance. They'll start avoiding you, declining invitations, keeping interactions short and surface level. They'll stop sharing anything real, stop being present in group settings where you are, stop engaging in any way that might give you more material to work with. They'll ghost you socially while pretending it's natural, it's busy schedules, it's nothing personal. But it is personal. It's self-preservation. They've decided you're too dangerous to have around, because every interaction is a potential landmine. Every conversation could be the one where you drop another truth bomb disguised as humor. So they'd rather just remove themselves from your orbit entirely than risk another exposure. And the wildest part is, they can't tell anyone why they're doing this. They can't explain to others why they're suddenly avoiding you without revealing that your joke hit something real. So they're stuck making excuses, inventing reasons, creating false narratives about why they need space from someone they used to interact with regularly. And all of it traces back to that one moment when you said something true and called it comedy. Let's dig into the psychology of why this works. Humor is a social lubricant. It lowers defenses. It creates permission for truth because it's wrapped in the safety of not being serious. When someone makes a joke, there's an unspoken social contract that says we're not going to treat this like a real accusation. We're going to laugh. We're going to move on. We're going to pretend it was just for entertainment. That contract protects the joker and the target equally. You get to say something true without being held accountable for saying it. They get to hear something true without being forced to respond to it. But here's where it gets complicated. When the joke is too accurate, when it hits too close, when it reveals too much, that social contract breaks down. The joke stops being funny and starts being confession. The laughter stops being genuine and starts being nervous. The moment stops being casual and starts being confrontational. And suddenly nobody knows how to act because the rules just changed mid-game. What you did, whether you meant to or not, is you weaponized humor. You turned a joke into a precision strike. You used comedy as a delivery system for truth that wouldn't be acceptable in any other format. If you had said it seriously, they could have denied it, defended against it, dismissed it as drama, but you said it as a joke, so they couldn't respond without looking defensive. They couldn't deny it without giving it weight. They couldn't dismiss it without confirming they took it seriously. You put them in a psychological trap where any response proves the joke was real. The only winning move was to laugh along and pretend it didn't land, but it did land. It landed so hard that they're still feeling the impact days, weeks, maybe months later. And every time they see you, every time they hear your name, every time they think about that interaction, the joke gets louder in their head. It stops sounding like a joke at all. It starts sounding like prophecy. Here's what they don't understand about you. You're not malicious. You're not calculating. You're not sitting around planning how to destroy people with strategic humor. You're just existing with a brain that processes reality differently than most people. You notice things, you connect patterns, you see inconsistencies, and sometimes those observations leak out in social situations, because your filter isn't designed to protect people from truth. Your filter is designed for appropriateness, timing, social context. But it's not designed to hide what you see just because seeing it makes others uncomfortable. So when the moment is right, when the setup presents itself, when your brain makes the connection, you say what you see. And you say it in a way that feels natural to you. You're not trying to hurt anyone. You're just participating in conversation with the tools your mind gave you. But to them, it feels like you're playing chess while they're playing checkers. It feels like you're operating on a level they can't compete with. It feels like you have access to information that should be locked away. Let me tell you what's happening in the bigger picture. This moment, this joke that broke someone's brain, is part of a larger pattern in your life. This isn't the first time you've said something that hit too hard.